kind of broadly, what am I going to be talking about today? I wanted to talk really about the differences between pressure and stress. I know when you are on a trainee scheme, an apprenticeship, that actually there's kind of a lot of things that you're having to concentrate on all at once, and and there's quite a lot of pressure on you. So how do I identify when I'm kind of under pressure, which is a good thing, or when I'm under stress, which is kind of when I'm basically under too much pressure? So I'm going to have a look at that, and then if I'm kind of understand what's going on for me from a stress perspective, how do I recognize that maybe I'm under a lot of stress? What does that look like for me? What support is out there for me if I'm in that space? Um, what can I do to make sure that I am in the best health at any possible time? Right? What can I do to support myself? And also, what are some of the signs and symptoms that I might see in other people that they need some help? And how do I start that conversation, really? So that's broadly what I'm going to try and get through in the next 50 minutes or so. So it's quite a lot. Any questions as we go? As I said, just pop your hand up, pop something into the Q&A. So this is the Slido for the session. If you want to take your smartphone out and just scan that barcode, then you'll be able to interact with the word clouds and stuff, and you'll be able to ask me an anonymous question. If there's something on there that you think I really want to know this, or I really want to ask this, but I don't want, I just want to do it anonymously. That is entirely fine. So when I run these sessions, I like to, particularly when there's not a massive amount of people, run this relatively interactively. So I'm going to be asking questions, right? There's the best part of like 20 people on here. We've all got 20 sets of experiences that we can all share, 20 sets of ideas and that kind of thing. So I will be asking you to contribute stuff in the chat as we go through. Hopefully I've left that there long enough. It will come up on the next slides as we go through as well. So what is mental health? What is it? What are we here to talk about today? Anyone really brave, come off mute or pop something in the chat? Or... No? Ben, you look like,
the state of your mental well-being, how you're managing to cope with things, everyday life outside of work.
Great.
And it all contributes to your mental health.
Yeah, mental health is a really good 100%. It's a core component of our overall well-being, right? There are three general components to our overall well-being. We've got our mental health, we've got our physical health, and we've got our financial health, and all three of those things are really, really closely linked together. So if I struggle with my physical health, perhaps that impacts my ability to get into work that continue in the role that I was doing. That can have an impact on my financial health. That in turn can have an impact on my mental health. If I've got challenges around my mental health, perhaps again that might stop me from going into work. I might have some time off from work. I might have some significant time off from work. It can affect my financial health. The fact that I am struggling financially means that maybe I don't have the resources available to look after myself in the best way, and my physical health can suffer. So all three parts of these is really, really important. When I was doing this training 10 years ago, and I used to ask what mental health is, I used to get a very different answer to that question. So I would hear things like it's depression, it's anxiety, it's schizophrenia, it's any of these things. We would just talk about it from a negative perspective. why I think it's really important and it's really good that these things have changed recently is that we've known for ages, like our physical health, we can be physically healthy or we can be physically unhealthy. And because of that, because of knowing that, we proactively take steps to make sure that we are in top physical condition, right? Or at least if we're not doing it, we know what we should be doing. So I should be getting sleep, I should be eating a balanced diet, I should be doing exercise, I should be staying hydrated, I should be avoiding ultra processed foods, all of this kind of stuff. And there's lots of things that we know. How many of you, I mean, I'm not going to ask anybody for like insights, but how many of you actually take proactive steps around your mental health? Just with kind of an emoji, just a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is it something that you think about doing, taking proactive steps on a day-to-day basis? Awesome.
Like I say, there's quite a few. I'll be a no, to be honest, Paul. I personally don't, to be honest. It's one of those things that, yeah, I probably don't proactively do it. I'm one of those who's always caught in the moment.
Right. Okay. From our chat before, I think there may be stuff that you do, but whether or not you're thinking about it in those terms or not. So yeah, we'll kind of drill into what some of that stuff might be as we go through the session a little bit later on. But I just wanted to share some stats and some statistics. You can see them like on the slide there at the moment. In terms of people experiencing poor mental health, at any given time, 1 in 6 working age adults can have some symptoms associated with poor mental health. So it is quite a common thing. I don't know how many, 18 people, that divides quite nicely, right? So statistically speaking, at this point in time, there are 3 of us on this call who might be experiencing symptoms associated with poor mental health. Slightly less easy maths, but 1 in 4 people, so 4.5 of us, I guess, would likely experience poor mental health over the course of the 12 months. From your experience, what do you think around those numbers? Do you think those numbers are about right from your experience? Are they a bit high, a bit low? What in the chat or off mute, what do you think? Okay. Carl's put low. Angela a bit low. Probably low. Very low. Okay, so probably higher, which I think actually, although we're using different language, maybe meaning the same thing. All of this information, it comes from the Office of National Statistics. This is where people have reported the fact the reason that I am not off work or the reason that I'm sick or whatever it might be is due to my mental health. So perhaps those numbers are a bit higher, and perhaps it's a good thing if those numbers get higher because it means that people are able to start talking about it. And if we start talking about it, there's one message to take away from the whole of today, and I will drill this in, is that if we start talking about things, then we can get the help that we need, right? And why is that important? There are some other statistics that aren't on this slide that I wanted to share. I was doing some research around this, and actually, has anybody got an idea of what the leading cause of death is amongst people between the ages of 10 and 19? Thanks, Carl. Yeah. It is a frightening statistic. And actually that statistic exists for men right up until the age of 45. It's the leading cause of death in males up until the age of 45. Beyond 50, the leading cause of death changes, and we get ill, right? We start to develop physical issues, but actually the highest risk category in total for that is males aged between the age of 45 and 55. It's staggering, and as a suicide first aider, there's a couple of things to be kind of bear in mind, is that people that die by suicide don't want to die, and people that kind of are in that space are faced between a really difficult choice between their life feels incredibly difficult, and the only way out appears to be a very difficult choice as well. It is the statistics that we look at. 70% of people who die don't have any contact with mental health services at all, none, in the year leading up to them taking their own lives, and high 90% of people who get the help that they need go on to make a full recovery. So it's super important that we recognise signs and symptoms in people, that we have these conversations, that we recognise them in ourselves, and if we're ever at that point where there seems to be no way out, that actually there is. And I'm going to link us to some really good resources at the end. From Dave in the chat, surely this is mostly due to the emergence of social media, as sad as that may seem. I think it can be a force for good. There's lots of research in this space at the moment. Obviously, there's countries that are banning this for under 16s. And yeah, I think it does put a lot of additional pressure onto people to be the best versions of themselves. I deal with a lot of young apprentices who struggle to make phone calls, right? I know this has got nothing to do with it, because they're very used to making messages and sending messages, and every time you send a message you can think about it. It could be the best version, it could be exactly what you wanted it to say and expressed in the right way, and that thought of having a conversation with somebody, things not kind of, particularly if it's a high pressure conversation, not going quite way, is anxiety inducing. And I think that pressure to put your best self forwards all the time can be a challenge. And then being outed online, the shame that comes with that, yeah, 100%. I think there are massive challenges in that space. So I've got another slide, and we'll kind of move on from that a little bit. Guess there's a bunch of famous people, right, on a slide. And why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this for two reasons. One is that all of these people have had their own challenges around mental health. Many of them have had thoughts around what we've just been talking about. Why am I sharing it? For two reasons. One, just because you are rich, famous, successful doesn't make you immune to this stuff. We're all humans. It can affect absolutely anybody at all. But the other point of it is perhaps we don't talk about our mental health because we think that if we share it, we're going to be judged by people, that people are going to see us as weak, or that we're not capable of doing stuff. All of these people are exceptionally capable, right? They are, all of them, multi-millionaires, all of them doing kind of phenomenal things. All of them have had challenges and overcome. So it can affect us all. It's not a limitation. So, kind of getting back to what I wanted to talk about around stress. What's your thoughts on what what is stress? Go on, David.
When things get too much for you, either in the workplace or even out of work, it can be a mother or father that's just totally stressed. They've got a newborn child. They've had zero sleep for the last 3 days, and they've still had to work. And it's overwhelming. Leads to stress.
Yeah. Thank you. Loads of good stuff in the chat. So thanks, David. Yeah. So yeah, too much pressure. When responsibilities get too much, being overwhelmed by numerous things you can no longer handle, overwhelmed and overstimulated. Yeah. So got the WHO definition on there as well. We're all affected by it. How we respond to it is affected by kind of the current mental state that we're in at that particular time. Stress itself is generally an anxiety response, and anxiety is a good thing in small doses, right? We get outside of our comfort zone, we perceive a threat, and we can perform better. Got a slide that talks about this, right? If you think about pressure like a bike tire, okay, what happens when a bike tire doesn't have enough pressure in it? It's flat, it doesn't roll very well, it's really hard work. If you're in an environment where you're not under any pressure at all, you don't feel stressed, you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not moving forward, then you can start to feel frustrated, bored, under-involved, understimulated, like you're just not in a particularly good place. As you're kind of progressing through your apprenticeship and you're getting more responsibilities at work and you're outside of your comfort zone, but safely outside of your comfort zone, your assignments are kind of stretching you a little bit. Again, it's outside of your comfort zone, but kind of safely outside of your comfort zone. Then actually that stress of an assignment coming up, or that kind of anxiety about an assignment coming up, can be really helpful. It can focus the mind, it can make you decisive, creative, effective. So pressure is really essential for us to learn and grow and develop as human beings. It's without it, we would be bored, under-involved, frustrated, not going anywhere, lethargic. So being under the right amount of pressure is really good. My tire is running at optimal level. It's rolling really, really well. Start to notice that actually if you then keep putting pressure into that tire, then some things start to change, and I might start to notice some changes in myself. I might go from having some reduced efficiency from being effective. I might start to have some difficulty concentrating. Then might start to affect my mood and my behaviour, to the point where I may then just get overwhelmed, tired, anxious, and burnt out. And so we need to kind of recognise when we are here, well, when we're here, or if we're starting down the other side of that curve. So I'm going to ask, it's a bit of a word cloud thing, so let's test it. Hopefully in your on your phones or whatever, you should be able to type in causes of stress. So what type of things cause stress for you? And you should be able to pop in a load of things. You don't need to do just the one. So loads of good stuff. There's loads of good stuff going in here. I'll give it a second. Yeah, okay. I think I've got plenty to be working with on this one. So, a whole heap of stuff on there. Yeah, it looks like you can continue to type into it, so it's good. Deadlines seem to be a big one, right? Deadlines do seem to be appearing, and I am sure that actually working on an apprenticeship, I know is super hard work. You have deadlines at work, you have deadlines. Obviously for your academic studies as well, and again they will be sources of stress. Financial issues being on there as well, too many things at the same time. I'm going to talk about that in just a second as well. Not having the training or knowledge to complete a task. Disappointment is quite a powerful word. Too much workload, overwhelming responsibilities, exams, family problems, tiredness, parents, loads of different things on that. So while I was saying that stress can be a good thing, it's quite easy for us to go down the other side of that curve. This is from Mental Health First Aid England, whole load of things that kind of potentially can be sources of stress. I think most of these we've covered already. I guess some of this stuff we didn't. There's the physical stress aspect of that also adds into our kind of overall capacity to be able to cope with life. So those are things to be thinking about as well. But there's a model that I wanted to talk to you about, which is called the stress container. So this is from Mental Health First Aid England, being used with permission. Has anyone come across this as a model before? Not shaking heads. Okay, if you ever do a mental health first aid course or a mental health aware, it's something you will do then. So we are all have our own kind of capacity to deal with stress. So just thinking around the people that you know, I'm sure you can think of somebody who, no matter what life throws at them, seems to be able to bounce back, just they're not phased. You may also know people who, from your perspective, quite a small thing comes along and it will overwhelm them. So person A that never gets phased, they've got a really big stress container. Person B, their stress container might be a bit smaller, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how we're built. Past trauma, genetics, all of those kind of things affect the size of our container. But actually it doesn't matter how big or small it is, because ultimately we can all be under so much stress that we're overwhelmed. Life throws stress at us, okay? So what are the things on that slide? Financial problems, deadlines, our own kind of perceptions of whether or not we're good enough at these kind of things. Relationship problems, parents, work challenges, and that's okay, right? Life is going to throw stress at us. Really horrible saying, but it works really well. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? So all of this stuff it's coming into our stress container, and we're okay. Problems occur when the amount of stress that we're under. Excuse me, let the dog out. great about working from home. My kids have just got back. My dog was about to bark. They were all things that were about to overwhelm my stress container. So, so yeah, stress goes into our container and everything's okay until it's not, right? So when our container overflows, that's when we start to have some challenges. We will all experience that in a different way. From my own personal experiences, I know that when my container is reaching the top, I lose my appetite. Then I just get super, super tired. Thinking back to that diagram we just looked at, fatigue is one of the things that happens to me. If it continues and I don't do anything, I then lose my ability to sleep. And then if I don't do anything at that point, that's when I get into big trouble. So I've had challenges myself in the past, panic disorder, had panic attacks as a result of kind of not noticing those early warning signs, not noticing what was going on. As a result of knowing that, I'm now much better at controlling it, and that's, I guess, what's the important thing is to understand this next part. So whilst I can't control the size of my container or the stress that's coming into it, I do have a tap on that. And on that tap allows me to drain stress out of my stress container. So things that I can do that are good and that help drain stress out, things that I can do that maybe don't help me. So in the chat, I guess, or if you want to come off mute, what do you think some things that are helpful coping strategies might be? What are things that you all said right at the start? A few of you said, these are some of the things that I do to look after myself. These I do take active steps in supporting my mental health. What I think I'm going to do, and actually I don't know if I can do it, Dylan, could you pop people into breakout rooms for just to have a chat amongst yourselves about what some of the things are? Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. That could be probably enough. It's between supporting somebody with physical health and supporting somebody with mental health. As I was saying in our breakout room, if I break my arm, regardless of my age, background, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, any of those things, you're going to put a cast on my arm, and it's going to be exactly the same for everybody. With mental health, then actually what works for me might not work for you. So when we're having conversations with people around their mental health and what are you doing to look after it, and what do you think about? What sort of things do you do to look after yourself? And when you're feeling good, what sort of things do you do to look after yourself? The conversation should be very much about them and not about what we do and what we think works, because what works for us might not work for anyone else. Although it does look like here, lots of people on this group like exercise and like walks, which is, I guess, is really, really important, right? It is really important. There are some things that are known to be really good for all of us, right? Exercise, particularly both cardio and strength training. Obviously, we know these things are good for physical health and mental health. Obviously, that we know our diet is super, super important. There's loads of research on here recently that's been done in this space around the impact of what we eat on our mental health. Some fantastic studies, and I'm not going to give you any physical health advice, but yeah, if you want to look into this stuff, there's been some really interesting papers published from Harvard recently about how important this is, and some people have had significant changes from no drugs have worked whatsoever for these people. They've changed onto a keto diet in this example, and they've recovered from schizophrenia, from schizoaffective disorder, made some significant changes. So it's not a surprise that we are having a mental health epidemic at the same time as we are having a weight epidemic. It is, the two things are massively linked. And sleep, obviously, being one of those things that is the first to go, but is really important. So we can manage those things. I think it's really helpful. But then, as you've seen, there are loads of other things that are on here. Some of the things that no problem. Some of the things that I think are really important that haven't come out on here that can be massively important, particularly when looking at our stress container, is how do we approach problems, right? How do we plan and organize what is in our stress container? You will have lots going on at the moment, and I'm sure your lecturers and everybody talks to you about the importance of kind of planning. I think whole life planning is massively important. Planning in when I'm going to get my assignments done, planning in what I'm going to be doing in my work environment, but planning in this stuff as well. What am I going to do to make sure that I'm taking care of myself? What am I going to do, and when am I going to do it? Because this is one of the most stressful periods in your life, right? So how do I make sure that I manage that? What do we think some of the things that are unhealthy coping strategies might be? So these are all things that you've talked about that are really positive. What are some things that might be more of a challenge, or might indicate that there is an issue? Thanks, David. Yeah, over drinking, alcohol, drug use. Yeah, I'm going to add some other things. I'm going to give you a second. Yeah, so junk food. So yeah, lots of the right answer going in there. Some unhelpful coping strategies that indicate people are under a significant amount of stress are, over drinking, drug use, anything addictive, gambling addictions, through to some other things like self-harm, eating disorders. Apathy is quite an interesting one. Yeah, it might. I guess I'm going to come on to other signs and symptoms that we might recognise. I guess that'll be the next thing that I'll get into, and that might be one of those things, definitely. I'm going to add in from my view, and all of those things indicate a challenge. One of the biggest unhealthy coping strategies is believing that you can deal with this all on your own and not asking for help and not talking about it. I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that most people make, through fear of kind of being judged, through fear of being laughed at, or people, just the general stigma that there is around mental health, and people keep it to themselves. There is 100% help out there. What are some of the other signs and symptoms that we might recognise? Okay, yeah, falling into bad habits or out of a routine. Isolation, yeah, so becoming withdrawn, becoming irritable, being quiet, all good things. See, I might recognise some of those unhealthy coping strategies that we've talked about. Anything else that we might do? You might notice. Yeah, just wanting to sleep and not to get out of bed. So we might see that kind of general fatigue and anything that goes with that as well. So we might see people who are tired. Anything else that we might see? Thanks, Benjamin. Yeah, some changes to physical appearance. So I might be struggling to cope. I may be at that point on the curve where I'm feeling fatigue, I'm feeling really tired. Just getting myself to work or getting myself to college is a struggle in itself. So there might be changes in physical appearance in terms of I may normally be clean shaven and I'm growing a beard, or may take less care of myself. I may be gaining weight, I may be losing weight. So any of those things I think are signs and symptoms that we might have. Yeah, hoping it will go away on its own. And actually, sometimes it does, right? Sometimes 100%. Sometimes it does. You can make changes to your lifestyle. You can increase your coping strategies that you've got. You can make plans to deal with everything that's in your stress container. All of that kind of stuff you can 100% do, and it can go away on its own. It is in your control to do some of this stuff, but if you're making all these changes and it's not, and you're not kind of starting to feel better, then yeah, talking to somebody is hugely, hugely important, I think. I'm running rapidly out of time actually, and I could go on for ages on this subject, and I'm sure there is lots more that we could talk about. I just wanted to, I guess, make you aware of some places. And I don't know if you've come across any of these things, but if you recognise that you've got some challenges and you need some help yourself, right? Statistically speaking, there's somebody on this call who might need to talk to somebody. I know you've got safeguarding support at LSP. I just wanted to flag out some other resources that are available to you, many of which you may have come across, one of which I know you haven't, so I'm going to talk about that. There's lots of support services aimed, generally, I guess most of this is young adult specific. Samaritans talks to obviously everybody. Papyrus is very much geared towards suicide prevention in younger people. All of these services are free to use. Kooth and the Mix are really good sites that you can visit. They all have helplines. They're all very experienced in talking about this stuff and support that is in your area. Stay Alive app is available in the Play Store and the App Store. Again, some super helpful things as well. The Lighthouse charity, the company that I deliver training for, they are free to use for anybody who works in construction and their families as well. They do loads of really good stuff around physical health, around financial health, and around mental health as well. So they've got teams of counsellors that are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 17 different languages. One of you put in the chat earlier that financial issues is the number one issue, I think, was to quote it, and 100% that is the case. financial challenges are a real big drain on mental health, and we do lots of support in that area as well. So sorting out rent arrears, helping people with debt management, all of that kind of stuff. So I think most of you were on a construction type program. You would all be able to speak to them. Again, all of these services are 100% confidential as well. So, like I said, I could talk for a long time on this subject. Just wanted to see if there were any questions. I haven't checked the poll at the moment. Don't know.
There's none in the chat panel, Paul. Unless anyone's got any questions. David, sorry, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry. This is going to sound probably really, really odd. Does this count towards off-the-job training? I'm sure everybody else is thinking it.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
does.
Yeah, absolutely. Put it in there as off-the-job training. You know, you've stepped out of your usual working hours to attend this, and I think it's, you know, you can probably link it to the behaviours of your apprenticeship standard as well. You know, mental health is all around your behaviour. So yes, good question. And do make sure you all log it. I can see Paul smiling there because I'm sure he'd be asking his apprentices to log it if they was in the session.
Yeah. I'm thinking about which behaviours, right? So stuff around planning and stuff having an impact on your mental health, about kind of managing what's in your stress container and your deadlines and all of those kind of things. Yeah, definitely it links into that a bit as well. Any more? I still can't see any more chats in there. I guess I've got like 3 minutes, so I just want to share this last slide. I can make sure that I provide the links to Dylan as well. This is just something for you guys to have a think about, actually. So whenever you are feeling kind of overwhelmed, you're starting to feel that your stress container is kind of overflowing, then this is something you can start to think about. Okay, so what are the items in that list? What is going on for me? Making a note, journaling, that is something that is really, really helpful for many people. And then prioritizing, right? So out of that list, what can I actually do something about? The dog is probably one I can do something about, but not right now. What is the biggest priority? So what is going to make the biggest difference out of all of those things? And then who can I go to for support, right? So if it's an assignment, who can I speak to about it? Whatever it might be. And then having to think about what healthy coping strategies are you using, and is there anything that I'm doing that isn't? I guess the last bit, I know my stress signature, right? My wife knows my stress signature. The minute she recognises the fact that I'm skipped my lunch, she makes me go for a run, right? She knows what my coping strategies are, and she knows what happens when I'm not looking after myself. So who's looking out for you? That would, that's how I would finish that.
Well, thank you, Paul, for taking the time. I know you very kindly volunteered to do this session this afternoon. Your background brings a lot of relevance to a lot of people on the call as well from an industry point of view. So thank you for taking the time. It is really appreciated.